Hi guys, we're colouring an image from Jade Summer's new book Christmas. So it's got lots of Christmas themes in it, and I really enjoyed colouring this one and used some different effects. So guys, let's go in and get started. So I've printed this image on Xpress blending card and used my laser printer to print that out. So I'm coming in and I'm putting in some gold first. So what I did was actually do a little bit of research, had a look on Google, looked up some pictures of curled ribbon to be able to figure out where I would put highlights and shadows and things like that. So I started off with E47 and I've come in and put in the shadow areas on there, and then I've blended that out with YR23, and then I've come over that with the Y15. So we're really just creating some depth on the sides and some shadows there, and then we're creating a little bit of a highlight in the middle section by applying the colors through there as well. So I'm going in and finishing this off here. If you would like more full details on this, on how to create that, there is a video on Patreon which is a little bit more in depth, and you'll be able to see that in real time as well. So I'm coming in to do the bow, so I did exactly the same thing. I had a look at what a bow would look like if it was curled and bent that way, and where the shadows would be and things like that. So I'm going in now with that E47 and I'm going to blend it out with YR23, and then I've got some Y15 to go over the top of that as well. So also we'll have the color lists available to patrons as well. So I'm going to come in and fill out all of these details for the gold first. So there's a couple of different techniques that I'm going to go through today that you can use on other images as well. So I'm just going to finish off this gold and then we'll move on to those things as well. So this image did take a long time for me to do, and it for me kind of made me realize why I don't do such in-depth pictures, because they do take such a long time. Now if I was just showing my coloring and doing it for myself, I probably would go ahead and do images like this, but I do find that they can take me onwards up to 8 hours to complete, and with markers that's quite a while. And then obviously you've got video recording and editing and voicing and things like that as well. So it takes me a long time to do an image with this sort of length and detail into it, but I really did enjoy doing it, and it was nice to be able to use some effects that I've learnt throughout my colouring experience as well. So I liked quite a few images in this book. Actually, there were a few that were really quite detailed and not something that I would probably do, but for people who like mandalas and you know, patterned images and things like that, it would be great, because there was a lot of detail in a lot of the images, and they're all Christmas themed, so something to get you in the mood for Christmas. So yeah, so I picked this one because it was the one that I thought that I could show a few different things on, and also I quite liked it. It was nice, and it's good to do some images that don't have people in them all the time. So that's why I did pick this image. The other image that I was looking at doing was a little snowman one, which I may do later on. But look, this book was actually really pretty, and I really hope that you all do enjoy it, and it was well worth having and doing this picture for you. So I'm almost finished the gold areas now. I've just got the bell to do. I'm going to do a very similar thing to what I've done on the ribbon. I did look up some bells and look up how the reflection would look and things like that. So I've just sort of gone on what I thought would go in the shadow areas, and I've used exactly the same colors. So I've just come in with Y00 though, and I'm just marking the areas I wanted as shadow areas out to make sure it would look good before I went in and put in the darker color. So I'm just using that now just to line those out, and then I'm coming back over the top. So I'm using the same colors as the other ribbon. I'm using E47, I've got YR23, and I've got Y15 there as well. So I'm coming in and putting in all the shadow areas, and I'm slowly blending them out to that lightest color. I'm going to make sure I leave some white areas on there just to make sure that we really can see the highlights and the shine on that as well. So now we've done that, we're going to move on and do the flowers. So I'm doing the pointed flowers that are around the outside edge of the area. So I've got G14 and then I've got R37 and then R05, and I'm going in and just blending those colors through from the shadow areas out. The reason I've used green is because it is a complementary color and it does go in nicely with these colors, creating a nice shadow in there without having to need that really dark color. Also giving me the ability to change the reds around a little bit as well, because later on I'll use R59 as a shadow color, so that'll change the whole color of the red that I do. So I really like the way this came out, and so I've popped through and fixed all those up through there. So I've got G14 for the shadow areas, and then I've gone over it with R37, and then I've gone over that with R05. So I'm just going over this with another layer just to make sure that's nice and deep, and you can see the color differences between the light and the dark there. So now I'm going to come in and do the background wreath. So I'm going to do just, I guess I'm kind of smudging in a lot of colors in together to give it a sort of a, I don't know, a colourful look around it, and I'm just going in and blotching on these colours and putting little lines in. I'm not blending or anything, I'm just going over areas and trying to sort of evenly spread the colour out everywhere. So I started with YG23, and then I've come in with B06, and then BG07, and then I've got BG23. So I'm just going in and just marking around the areas that haven't got anything on the wreath part of it. So you can see I'm starting to build up a circle now around that. So I'm trying to put in a couple of nice greens through it, but because we've got lots of green with the leaves and things, I wanted this to be a little bit different in color. So I've come back in now with the YG23 just to put a little bit more in, because there were spots that were missed there. So once I've done that, I'm going to go over it with the BG23 there, and then I'm going to use my colourless blender just to smudge and smooth all of that colour in together. So it will help bleed in the darker colours to the lighter colours, and it will give it more of a smooth effect. So I'm going to go in and finish off this. So I'm just going over all of that now with that BG23, and then I'm going to blend it all through with the colourless blender. So just finishing off that background of the wreath now, and I've used some some zero colorless blender to go over the whole area there. Now you don't have to use the greens, you could use reds or gold or silver or something like that in the background. I've just chosen this because it was, you know, green's Christmassy, green, red and gold, I guess. So yeah, so I've picked that. So once I've done this here, I'm going to move on to the little leaves onto the left hand side of the picture. So I'm going to use some greens to go through those. So I'm going to use some G29 to line all of the veins in the middle of the leaves there. So I'm doing that now, and then I'm going to blend them out. So to blend them out though, I'm concentrating most of the color onto one side of each of those leaves, and then the lighter color I'll do over the whole lot of those. So I'm coming in with G9 and I'm going over the top of the veins that I've already done, and I'm actually concentrating this color to one side of the leaf. So instead of doing it directly down the middle, I'm more concentrating on either the left or the right side of the leaf, and then I'm going to go over that with the next color. So I want one side of the leaf to be a little bit lighter than the other side, so that's why I've done that. So the next color I'll bring over the top and take up most of that area, and I'll only leave a small gap. So you can see there that now I've started that G05, I've left a small gap on the opposite side of that leaf, because I want to bring G02 in and just do over the entire area, leaving that section a little bit lighter than the rest. So I wanted to sort of give it a little bit of character and texture, and to do that I've just done that so the leaf looks a little bit like it's bending over. So now I'm bringing in the G02 and I'm going to go over the remainder of the leaf area with that. So just filling out the whole area. I'm going to put some Y00 over the top of each of those leaves there as well. So I'm coming back to G29 now, and I'm going to mark in all of the middle parts of these holly leaves. So what I'm actually going to do is create some little veins coming out from the middle to the edges of each of those leaves. So all I'm doing is going from the little corner pointed sections of the leaf, I should say, I keep doing that. So I'm coming from each of the pointed sections on the sides of each of those and bringing them in towards the middle. So we're going to create some little areas there and some real veins through those. So just following along like I've done there. So I've got G95 and I'm just coming into the middle of each of those sections and just spreading the colour out towards the edges. So I'm still leaving a little gap for the last colour and just bringing this in to the middle area. So just creating a little bit of depth in the middle part, which dips in a little bit, and then some highlight on the outside of the leaves, which is a further out. So I'm going to use YG91 and just blend over the top of that completely now. So it's a real grey green, but it's a little bit different to the leaves on the other side of the page. So we've got some a different variety of colours coming through. So I'm going to bring some pinks through the flowers up in the top left hand corner. So I'm using RV19 first, and I'm just going in and lining all of the shadow areas now with that. So I'm doing the tips of the leaves and also, or the petals I should say, and also inside where the petals are overlapping other petals. So that's all the darker areas now. So I'm just going in with that one. I'm also going to do a pink bauble decoration down the bottom left hand corner as well to help balance the pink out a little bit. I wanted to put a variety of colours through. I didn't just want to do red and green, so I have put the pink in to help break that up a little bit. I've also used a little bit of purple as well. So I just marked out the next areas with the RV02 just to make sure I didn't go into those areas with the darker colours. So I've got RV04 and I'm coming in and RV06, and I'm coming in and doing blending that darkest colour out a bit, and then I'm going to use RV14 and just come a little bit further in. So I've still left some areas there which I marked out with the RV02 as my highlight area, so I'm going to bring that in and try and blend that out a little bit from the middle of each of those sections. So I'm going to do the same thing here with the red flowers. So I've got R59 and I'm going into all of the shadow areas again and just marking those areas out. I'm going to blend that out with the lighter red colours to give it a nice bright red. So I've got some R29 there, and I'm just blending that a little bit further out towards the edge and the highlighted areas of the flower. So if you'd like to know a little bit more about nature and flowers and doing themes with plants and things in it, there are a couple of online classes that you can do. One of those is Kit and Clowder. They have an Elements of Nature class. They do go into more depth and detail about how to make the flower come to life and where to put your shadows and things like that. So if it's something that you'd really like to know a lot more about, that is something that you can do. If you do go along and sign up for a class, please let Elise know that I've sent you. So I'm going to continue blending out this flower now, and I'm going to bring in the next lightest colour. I've got R37. Now the R30s are a little bit pinker than they are red, I think. So bringing that one in now to, it's more brighter, I guess. And then I've got R35, and I'm just coming over the remaining areas. So you can see that the tips of the flowers are a little bit more pink rather than red, which I quite like the look of. So I'm going to come in and do the little round parts of each of the flowers with the Y15. I've done that on all of those flowers that were there. So I'm coming back in again with R59 now and just doing all of those shadow areas. Now I did miss the little yellow parts on this flower, but I'll come back in and fill that out in a sec. I'm going to blend, so I'm using Y15 to do that. So I've done that on every single flower on the picture. So I've come back in with R29 and I'm just blending that out now, just going over the top of the previous colour and bringing it a little bit further out. I'm going to blend that out with R37, and then I've got some R35 as well. We're going to then move on to the berries on the right hand side of the whole wreath. We're going to leave the left hand ones, I'm going to make them actually grapes. But all of the holly berries and the little spots on the other side there, I'm going to colour with the same blend that I used on the pointed flowers. So I've got G14 and I'm doing a little line on each of the right hand sides of these to create the shadow, and I'm blending that out with the R37, sorry. And then I'm going to blend that out with R05. So we've come in and we've created a deeper side, and then we've blended that out to the lightest side. I did leave the little areas right next to the shadow on the right hand side there white, so that I could fill in this color in there, just to give that illusion that they're rounded. So they're all finished off now. Oh, I missed some underneath the little ribbon up there, so I'll come back and grab that later. So I'm going to do the leaves on the roses now. So I'm lining each of those veins with the G29 again. So this is a nice deep green, and I wanted to keep the same sort of shades through. I'm also doing all of the leaves on the pointed flowers as well. So we're finishing off the rest of the leaves on the picture now. I've got G07 and I'm coming in and just lining those areas over the top of what I've previously done, and putting a little bit of shadows in any areas that are overlapping the flowers and things like that as well. I've got G21 and I'm finishing off those flowers now, just bringing this over the entire area. So we've got some different shades and different colours through the whole picture now. Some nice mix of greens and blues and reds. And of course now we've added pink. So just remember that I have this in fast speed, so take your time to catch up and make sure that you've caught up on what you need to before moving on. Also, you can slow down the video if you've already got the colours that you need and you just want to watch the actual video part of it. You could slow the video down as well. So we're going to start on the berries. We're going to use a few different colours through this. I want them to look like there's a reflection on them from the colours around there, so I'm going to put a couple of colours through them as well as purples. So I've got BV02 and I'm going to first create a small circle on each of the bottom of these berries. This is where the light, I want the little light reflection to be. I've got YR15. I'm just putting a little line underneath each of those sections. And then I've got RV04 and I'm doing the same thing. We want to create that look that there's a reflection on those berries. So I'm using BV08 in the middle section. I'm blending it out with BV17, and then I've got some BV04, and then I'm going over the area again with the BV02. So I'm still leaving that tiny little spot there on the bottom as my reflection, and I'm going to fill that out with some white gel pen. So I'm just going to pop that in there so you can see there's a little reflection, but there's also some colour through that as well to show that that colour's reflecting on those berries as well. So I'm going to do the same thing on each one. So starting with BV02 on all of them. And then I'm going to put a little tiny line under each of those sections of some YR15. So just some small little flicks underneath. And then on also under there I'm going to put the RV04, so just putting a little bit of pink and orangey red tones through that as well. And then I'm going to use first of all the BV08, and I'm just putting a spot in the middle of each of those at the top parts of them. I'm blending that out with BV17. And then I've got the BV04 to finish off the remainder of that. We're just going around now with the BV02 and filling the remainder of the berries out. So we've got some cute little berries there, and we've got little highlights on the bottom of them with the gel pen. So I'm just working on the candy canes. I skipped a little bit of video there, but I used the same colors that I used through the holly berries and the pointed flowers. So I used first of all the G14, then the R37, and now I've got that R05. And I just created darkness on either side of that, and the rest I've left as a highlight. So I've made sure that I've left a tiny little bit of white down each of those candy canes to make them look rounded. I'm also going to do the insides of these two. I think they're a candy of some sort. I've done those as well. I'm going to do these little presents here. I've got RV06 and I'm just going in and doing the shadow sort of areas there. I'm blending it out with RV14. And then I've got a little bit of RV02, and I've kind of left the highlighted areas there are whiter than the rest of it, so just to give it a little bit of a highlight there as well. So these are the tiny little details that I don't normally do because they take so long to up and change colors and things like that. So I'm using again the gold color, so I've got the E47, YR23, and then I've got Y15. I'm going to put some white gel pen in there just to create the little highlight sections as well, because they're a smaller area. It was a little bit harder to do. I've got the ribbon on the outside of the presents. I'm using B17 for the shadow areas, and I'm just blending over the top of that with some B02. A little bit of white gel pen in there as well, just to highlight them up a bit. I've also done the edges of the boxes of the presents as well there. So I'm coming in with some BV04. I want these flowers to be kind of a purple but white as well. I'm also doing inside the little lolly wrappers here as well with that. So I'm using B63 to blend that out, and then I've got some B60 as well. So I'm going to do the same on the flowers up the top here. So we've got B63 and then B60. So they're kind of blended out from a deep purple out to a nice light colour. So we've almost filled out most of the small tiny details now. I've just got some RV000 and I'm just putting that over the top of the purple in these flowers just to brighten them up a little bit. So I'm going to use the same red blend that I used in the berries on this ribbon. So we're using G14 first, and then I've got that R37, and then I've got R05. I'm leaving a couple of areas white on this as well, just to show some real bright highlights as well. Just finishing up a couple of areas that I missed before with the purple colour, so just going back in now. I just used the BB colours. I think I used Bs before, but that's fine. You can't tell the difference there. So I've got C0, and I'm just putting in a shadow area on each side of these candy canes as well, just to create a little bit of a rounded or curved look. So I'm going to come in and fill out the gold areas on these baubles. So I've got a couple of those that I'm just going to do. Some I'm going to put the E47 into, like I have with this one, and some of them I will just put the YR23 and the Y15 in. So I'm just going to start on this middle bauble here. I'm going to use the Y15 and just mark out some yellow areas. I've just done the right hand side of each of those to show a little bit of highlight. I'm coming in with the G14 and I'm filling out some of the shadow areas. I'm going to blend that out with G02 and then some G00 just to create some shadow and highlight sections on there. I'm going to go over it again with a second layer as well, just to deepen it up a little bit. So I'm going to do R05 in all the shadow areas underneath this middle part here. And I just realized that I've forgotten to add some of the YR23 into those gold parts to make them a little bit more gold. So I've got some R22 and I'm just blending over the top of that. I've left a couple of white areas there as well. I'm coming back in to deepen up that green now too. I've also done a little bit of this onto the lines as well to create a little bit more depth. I do apologise, I missed some of the video on this again. It's right off the edge of the screen there and I didn't realise until after I'd finished it. But I'm bringing in some RV 19, so same colours that are in the top pink flower, and I've just drawn out some areas there with that colour, and then I've come out with the RV14 and then RV06, and then I've got some RV02 as well. I've just created some lines, line effects through there, and then just blended it out with that colour. So I've just I'm going back over it again now. That's exactly what I did before, except there was no colour there when I first did it. So just blending it out with RV14, RV06, just in little areas. I'm just sort of lining it in, nowhere in particular, giving it a little bit of a marble effect there. I'm going to do some gold areas on the next bauble across here on the bottom right. So I'm just using the same colours that I used on the gold on the ribbon and the bells, and I'm just doing the same in here. So I'm just creating a curved look by doing two darker shadow areas on the side and a couple in the middle there as well, just to show the light reflecting off those. So I'm going to use some red to go through that. I've got some R05 and I'm going to blend it out with a little bit of R22. I'm doing on the right hand side of each of those as well, and coming in and just putting some shadow in there. So the R22 I'll then do over the top just to blend that in a little bit. So I'm going to bring some of the purples into this side of the picture now. So we've got the left and now the right as well. I'm going to skip the BV08, but I'm going to do the same colours as in the berries. So I've got BV17, BV04, and then BV02. I'm also going to bring in some reds just around the two ringed areas there. So I've got some R37 and some R22, and I'm just going in and lined the shadow sides with that and then popped some of that in over the top of it. And then I've got the white gel pen again, and I'm just going to fill out some of the highlight areas with that. I'm going to use the reds that I used for the flower on the remaining little decoration baubles there. I had R59 and then R29, R37 and R35, and then I've come in and used the white to put the highlights in. So I'm going to do the same thing. So you notice when I put the shadow in that I've left that edge piece there white, because I want to go over that with the lightest color to create the illusion that it's round. And then I'll also put the highlights in there with the white gel pen as well. So there was a couple of parts I missed. The bottom bauble there, I've just done that with some lighter red, and I'm just putting some highlights on. I'm doing this bottom one with G14, G02 and G00 like I did with the middle bauble there. Also I filled in the little holly pieces that were missing inside the ribbon there that I hadn't finished off before. So I filled it all in now. So I'm going to use some G02, and I'm just going to go to the right hand side of each of those crystal beads there hanging the decorations from. So I'm just going in and doing that now. Just going to come in right next to that green, and I'm going to put in some RV000. Just laying it down next to it and over the rest of the area now in the crystals. I'm going to leave the one in the middle as green. I quite liked it, and the highlight looks nice too. Because they were a different shape to the other ones, it didn't seem to matter. It fits nicely in there. So we're going to have a look at doing the background now. So first of all, I'm going to use some YR00, and I'm just going to come in and around all of these areas in the middle here and just flick this marker out towards the center. I'm using the side of my marker to get a thicker line and just flicking the color out towards the middle part there. I'm also going to go around the little crystal line here as well and bring it just past that also. So then I'm going to blend it out with some YR000 and just lighten it up a little bit and still leave a white section in the middle and on the outside sections as well. So we've got a little bit of highlight there, and it's going to be a really soft background color. So once I finish with the YR000, I'm going to use the colorless blender and go around and just soften all the edges of that up and blend it in nicely towards the white, so it's going to fade out to that white color. So the middle part I'm doing in towards the middle bobble, and then the outside part I'm going to do outwards towards the edge of the page. So I'm going to go ahead and finish all these sections off, and then we'll be finished for this project. So I've got that YR000 and I'm coming over the top of that previous color and blending it further out towards the middle part. So you can see I have gone over it a number of times to make sure I'm getting a nice even blend out to the lightest color. So I'm just repeatedly going over the previous color and coming out further. I'm going to do the same next with the clear. So I've got the colorless blender and I'm going to go over this area and just help bleed that out nice and softly to the remainder of the area. So I've got the colorless blender now and I'm just blending that all out nicely into the white. I'm going to go in and put some white highlights in, and a couple of areas I put the highlights on and then I wipe them off again, but look, anywhere that you want to put the highlights is fine. I'm definitely going to put more highlights on the gold areas. I will put the white on the sections I've left white just to brighten them up a little bit and make them really stand out, and also I'll probably put a few more spots on the baubles and things like that. So anywhere where I feel that I want to put in those highlights, I'm just going to do now. So guys, I'm just finishing this one up now, and I'll show you the finished product in a moment. I'm just putting in those highlights now. Just wanted to let you know that I'm going to do an extended video for the gold section, so we'll go into them a little bit more detail in a Patreon video. If you're interested in that, I will put the link in the description below. I'll also go into a little bit with pencils as well, so you can see with both markers and pencils. So I hope you did enjoy this video today. If you haven't subscribed, please do so, and you can then get notifications when I do upload new videos. I do also have a Hannah Lynn video coming out fairly shortly, and also I've got another review of the Selena Fennick books. So I will let you guys watch the end of this, and hopefully you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, please do ask. Also, you can join our Facebook group, and you can follow me on Instagram as well. Thanks guys.